Yes, sir, man. Before I start though, man, I just wanna, I wanna give a shout out to all the homies, you know what I'm saying? All the loved ones, all the fallen soldiers, our young homies and homies that fell, and the homies that came after me, and at the same time
Don't we're
around me, I
live.
got love for all the homies. Yes, sir.
There you go. There you go.
Don't
Oh,
we're
Stone and Bone.
live.
Stone and Bone.
We're
yes, sir.
live.
Oh, hold on. We live? How
Yep,
you
let's
know?
go. Let's
Nah, I
go.
already cut it off. Hold on.
We was
Live.
live. You got there live, so we can
Now I
do
gotta
that.
sip
Oh,
my coffee one more time, man. Let me.
yeah, man. I didn't know we was live.
Yep, it went live. Let me sit you're live. It did that.
Who said that?
Look, we went live, nigga.
The Redbone. Love that shit.
Man, let's get it.
And we
Let's
have
get it.
one person looking.
Who said that?
Hey, we're still live, blood.
Oh.
We went live, nigga. We're still live.
The Redbone. Love that
Hey, we're
shit.
still live, Stone.
All right.
Watching
Hold
us.
on.
Let's keep it going. What the hell? Let's go. Hey, we're
Man, it's
still
already messed up. We're gonna have to edit all this stuff.
It don't matter. No, we live. We ain't got to edit. We live. We're still live.
All right, here we go. We
All
gonna
right.
go with it. We gonna roll with it.
Hell, let's
I'll
go.
take the blame. I'll take the blame, y'all. It must have been meant for us to do this live.
Edit all this
Well, yeah.
stuff.
Well, once again, I hope all the homies, like I said, man, I want to give a salute to all our homies. You know what I'm saying? Before the fallen young homies, you know what I'm saying, and our whole generation.
Right.
You know, and but go ahead and shoot it, man.
So
You know.
yeah, welcome back to Pacoima Perspective.
Yes,
Got
sir.
me, you got me, Keystone, you got Redbone, of course. And today we got a special guest. We got the big homie Frex
Yes, sir.
from
Yes, sir.
Pacoima. Got a
Yes,
little
sir.
history for you guys, a little history.
Yes, sir.
Um, Stay tuned. We live, so you might hear your name. Tap in with us if you want to.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
so y'all know how I like to get started. Frex, what year were you born?
Man, I was born in 1968, December.
Wow, December, right at the end of 68, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right,
Yes,
I
sir.
heard that. So where were you born?
Man,
What city?
I was born in Tacoma, Washington. Up north. I was born 1968. I came. Actually, my grandmother was always in Pacoima since the 60s. You know what I'm saying? So it was about, I want to say, four of her siblings. They went to San Fernando. They was all out here. In the 60s. Went to San Fernando High School. My uncles and aunts, and my mom. She was out in Washington with my grandfather because they were separated. So that's why I was out there in
Oh, okay.
Washington. Her and one of
Okay.
my other uncles. My grandfather raised them. So I
Okay.
always had ties to Pacoima. So I want to say 75, Shay was born in Pacoima at the Memorial Hospital on San Fernando Road. So when we came out here, we stayed on Louver with my aunt, and then I checked in to Fillmore Elementary back then when it was
Oh,
called
you
Fillmore's.
went to Fillmore too?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I went, and then I ended up going back to Washington, and then we came back to Pacoima in 1979. That's when it was official.
Okay.
Like we finally moved
79. Right,
in
right.
79. But my mom, she was trying to get established, so she was in LA staying with one of her uncles. We was like staying out there until she got a spot in the valley because I always wanted to be in the valley. I didn't do good with LA. So I wanted, my family out of Pacoima. So we end up getting into the Pierce. So we moved into the
Okay.
Pierce, I want to say in like 1982,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know.
So
80.
so so y'all was living in LA, but were you were going to Fillmore Elementary, or how did that
No,
work?
so I got checked in the elementary when Shay was born, because we stayed out here. My mom had Shay
Okay. So that was about
when we was out
75.
here,
Okay.
1975. So, because she was born in May of 75. So
Okay.
we was staying with my aunt, so I had to be in school. So they enrolled me into Fillmore Elementary
Oh,
in
while you staying
75.
with your aunt.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But then we
Okay.
went back to Seattle,
Right.
and then 4 years later we came back. That's when my mom
Oh,
officially moved back.
wow. Wow. Okay.
You know what I'm
So,
saying?
okay. Okay.
And
Got that.
so
Got
at
that.
that time we had to move to LA because mom's didn't have she wasn't situated yet. And so
Okay.
when we lived in LA, we stayed on Rempar in Washington,
Oh
which
wow.
yeah, so that's
And
considered
wait, let me ask you this: what neighborhood is that? That would
so
be
that's
called.
that was Schoolyard and like West
Okay.
Boulevard, but they was just
Okay.
getting established. But I
Okay.
ended up going to so I checked into that elementary, had a couple of squabbles with some dudes, uh chased me home a few times because they didn't want to give head up fights, and I wasn't accustomed to that. But then after I had a little partner, and then they tried to quote me into a little set called Altaloma Baby Brims. So
Okay.
it's just
Wow.
like I was destined to be a blood at that.
About how old were you then when they tried to get you onto the Altaloma,
I think
baby friend?
I was in the fifth grade. I knew I was in the fifth grade. And
Yeah.
then so then my mom, we got a spot over there off of 54th and Western and Van and VNG Hood.
Right.
Wow.
So then we was over there, and that's when Pac-Man and Asteroid. So I used to be playing my little Pac-Man over there, and got into some squabbles with some VNs. Matter of fact, Goldie from VNG. And then I ended up becoming cool with like Kiki Foot from VN, Baby Todd, Bloodhound, and all them, right? But
Mm.
then I think I went to Horseman. So I graduated from Western Elementary, end up going to uh Horseman, but eventually couldn't go there no more because it was a homie named Black Larry from VNG. I would go to school with him, and he was a blood. So they already associated me with that. So I beat up a few dudes in the bathroom, and then I had to get up out of there. I couldn't go back to Horseman no more. So
Right.
from there,
Okay.
from there we ended up moving back. We ended up finally. Mom's got a spot in Pacoima,
Okay.
in the Pierce. So I came near it in 1982. That's when I remember. Yeah, it had to be like 82 because that's when I got enrolled into McClay. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying?
So you was
So
so McClay in 82.
yeah, like
You
82.
so you was 68. So you was about 14. So you was about in the eighth grade already?
Either
Eighth, ninth
seventh
grade?
to eighth grade. Yeah, no, because I didn't go. My class of 1985 was San Fernando.
Okay.
Okay. And
1985.
like you say, you was born in December, so you was at the end. So you probably
And
was a little, yeah, okay. I got you. I
yeah,
got you about
so
seventh, eighth grade. Right, right.
Hey, hold
so
on.
I
Let me shout out. Let me shout out to we got three in the chat. My boy B me. We got Lick and we got Slime Ball. We got the
okay.
homie in here. If y'all feel like asking any questions, we here to take questions too, fam. So let's
Yes,
get it.
sir.
Go ahead, Frex. My bad.
All right. So when I checked in to McClay, I was brand new, of course. So I was brand new. You had the homies there. I remember Cap, Kevin Matthews, the
Shout out to
homie Cap was there. Shout out to the homie Cap. Uh,
Don, on twice.
Robbie,
Okay.
Boo brother Robbie was going there.
Rambo.
Yeah, Rambo was there.
No, he was
All the
twice.
homies in that era.
Right.
All the homies in that era. Um, but I
Okay.
remember, so I remember when I first moved to the Pierce,
Uh huh.
I had conflict with Spody. I mean, we was already homies now. Don't get me wrong. Before we even started gang banging,
Right.
before
Right.
even
Right.
Be Crazy before Be Crazy kind of
We
like
just know.
decided to be a blood or whatever he was
Right.
going on over in the Teresa's. I was under that PPA Boys Act,
Oh,
already, They
Okay.
they so
What year?
Spody.
What
So
year?
I
What
think,
year? My bad. What
man, this
year?
had to be like 82-ish,
Okay.
going
Okay.
into 83. So I
Okay.
think I remember one time, I just throw the story out there. I remember one time they was having a wreck. They was having a wreck party up in the terrace. So I was coming. I had about $20 in my pocket. So they called themselves playing. Spody grabbed me behind my back. I think B Crazy was there. It was Chief Roy at the time, B
Okay.
Capone,
Okay.
and went in my pocket and took a dub out. Took the dub out, right? So I couldn't really do nothing with all them. So I think I called my uncle. My uncle was like, who did what? He was crazy. So we pulled up in front of Spody house because they stayed, and we went up there, and my uncle bammed on the door. So I remember Bob, they step pops, Elaine, they moms
Mom.
or
Yep.
whatever,
Yeah.
and Lady, right? So they was like, "What happened?" So they gave me back my dub. So now it's on with Spody and them. You know what I'm saying? Like, and but I can't handle them all at one. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I think me and Spody got down a couple of times. We got down up at Keys, and then the homie had he was a little older than me, right? So I think I rushed him. He dipped me and threw me over his back. And I was like, "Hey, blood, go on, do what you gonna do, my nigga." You know what I'm saying? Because he even, he flipped me, and he was like, "Frex, you all right?" Because I had already went to his house with my uncle, so he didn't want to. He was just like making sure I was all right. So and then after that, me and Spody got cool, because he kind of the one, like Fred. One day I came home. I think I went out of town. I was in I went to camp. I think I went to Seattle. Mom sent me because I ended up still in the car or some shit. I was young, right? So when I came back, Blood had me hit up on his wall. He had the homies.
Wall.
Ernie, young Ernie. I don't know if he remember, but I know they had their little room with the weights. They had the bunk bed.
I remember
And
that. I remember
yeah,
that.
so
I remember that.
yeah, so he had my name on the wall, and that's just how it all came, with me,
And how'd you get your nick? I know how you got your nickname, but how you get your nickname? Let them know.
Man, Spody was calling me Frex. They
Okay.
start calling me Frex. They used to tease me because I didn't really like, be calling me Frex. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
that's kind of like how that happened. D Boy would try to say, "Oh man, nigga," but really Spody and them and the peers start calling me Frex. That's how I got my name. And then I was off that east side. It was just we ran like that. But all the homies, the ones that turned Keyway, we was all homies. OVGs like Gangster T. I used to mess with the Voices.
Right.
Growing
Right.
up, I was just all over.
So Frex, you didn't get caught up in the bussing when cats was going to homes and all that. You stayed out
Okay,
the way.
nah. So I didn't get caught up in that because I
They
think
couldn't stay home
because I was going to jail at a young age.
for
You
real.
feel me? So when I was going, the first time I was in juvenile hall, I was just claiming the pack. You know,
Right.
East side, two P's and a B. But we was claiming Pacoima Paru. So I was actually juvenile hall. I think I was in juvenile hall once with B Crazy.
Okay.
In camp. Um, or we was just about to go to camp. I ended up going to Camp Mariloma. That was out here. That's before we
And
even
cat.
kind of knew
Right.
anything about
Right.
Palmdale, Lancaster, right?
Right.
And then, so the first time I went to camp, I think D Boy showed up, and he
Okay.
was happy as hell that I was there. You know what I'm saying? Because
So,
I had
so at
already,
that time, was you still in junior high school or you was already in high school?
um, yeah, I was in the 10th grade. I think.
You was
I think
already in
I
the
was
10th
just
grade.
going to the 10th grade.
Okay. So a hood had been
Was I in the 10th?
established already. Pacoima Paru was already established.
Hey,
Yeah,
we
we
got
was
crazy
pushing
in.
it.
We
We
got the
was
homies on
pushing
the
it.
chat. We got homies in the chat right now too.
All right, so we was pushing, we was pushing Cormal Paru, at that way back then,
The very first time you went to juvenile hall was you pushing the PPA boys or was you pushing PPB?
I was pushing PPB. You know, I was pushing PPB, so juvenile hall to camp. My very first time in camp, um, it had to be. It was in 84, into 84. It was in the 84, 85. 85, yeah, because I got out of camp in 85. That's when they built the Burger King across the street from the Noms. They had just built that when I got out.
Oh
And so I
damn.
remember shit. I remember shit by music. So when I got out, it was like Rock the Bells, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Lottie Dottie, you know what I'm saying? So I remember, they had just built the Burger King right there. And then my mom had moved into Fillmore
Uh
Apartments at that time.
Oh, there you
Cause I
go.
oh.
stayed at the bottom with it was Dominic Otis and Chris Murray stayed in the back. You feel me?
Okay. Front
Yeah.
Yeah.
streets, right.
Yeah. So in 1985, then so that's how that all happened. But when I
Wow.
got to yeah, and then so I was in camp in 85, into 84, because I did 10 months, 10, 11
Okay.
months in Camp Gonzales,
Okay.
banging a set. It
So
was me, yeah, me,
what?
Booney, me, the homie Booney we was in camp, Chicken
Okay.
Mike, Chicken Mike.
Damn.
Because back then when I used to want to go to jail back then. When the homies were I mean, that was kind of crazy, but I used to want to go to jail when the homie was in jail.
No shit.
Yeah, so and that's just how it was, man, back then.
That's funny.
So what do you think? What do you think brought that feeling on that you would rather have been in jail? You just was it a way to get your name more known, or what like what made that a more comfortable spot, or how was you feeling?
Well, I had I had so much love for the neighborhood, and then my homies, we was pushing. It was just like when they was in jail, they wasn't around me, and it was like I was already into a whole bunch of shit. So like when my homies fell, I just kind of wanted to, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't. It was like no hope at that time, man. My
Right.
life, I was that's what I was into,
Right.
and
Right.
so I didn't really give a shit about going to jail back then. And then when I went to jail, it was all about claiming the set, you know, and
Hey,
you
name
know,
you got some reputable keyways back there that you grew up that you know back there.
well, you talking about in L.A.
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah. The ones that you was locked up with.
man, like Ant Dog from Fo Trey. We was in camp together. It
Okay,
was Ant
okay.
Dog. He was part of the Third World.
I
You
remember
know what I'm
that.
saying? Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
Third World, homie, from when I went to Cleveland. They had a nigga, the brother named Smurf, come up out of the
yeah.
Third World.
So it
You
was
know,
Ant
I think.
Dog, um, a couple of other dudes, but we was beating. It was activity jumping off back then. So
Okay,
it was like I was around dudes like Mancho from PDL. That
okay,
was it. Maniac from PDL. A lunatic from Athens Park. A nut from 20s. I was
okay.
around bloods like that, so we was active. And they was the keyways was hitting you up. So after we put our demos down or whatever, the homies, then we was cool. We just
Right.
we was cool like that. You know, but that was just part of it. And so and then it was the homie Spody and Cap, I think was before me. They was in Camp Gonzales. So when I
Okay.
heard my homies was there, like that made me, I was like, shit, nigga, my homies just left here. So I had to carry on, carry
But,
on, carry on, you know what I'm saying, what it was. And
yeah,
that's just what it was back then.
I remember, man. I remember because when we was at McClay Stone, that's all I remember. Frex kept he would not stay home, bro. Every time he get
Mhm.
out, he going right back. One homie that we was growing up First Street that was going to jail a lot, Mister
Yeah.
Modak. God
But
damn it, wouldn't stay
because
home.
when I met Booney at McClay, Booney had me in all kind of shit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
He stole cars and
Right.
he would
Actually,
do a lot of creep moves. We would go up to the mall and running through the back of the stores, like creep into the back, take the money out the floor safes. So I was enticed with all that, you know what I'm saying? And we would get people's wallets and with their credit cards and swipe them and we're go get polo gear and all that shit, and steal cards and just snatch purses and rob all through there, all through the valley,
Right.
so I was always getting caught up, and I was messing with the west, even though I lived on the east side. But I think, when Chicken Mike and them at first, to me, they was kind of scared to come over to the Pierce. Now they might argue the fact, but they didn't like really coming over to the Noms and the Piers. But then they started coming. I think Chicken got him a girlfriend in the Noms. He started coming. D Boy started coming. But that's just how it was. That's how I seen it. That's my perspective. Now they might, don't quote me. They might say, "Oh, nigga," because they think they hella hard now. You know what I'm saying? And but that's my homies. You know what I'm
Was
saying?
it
Come
was
on, homie.
you think because of course the peers, like Be Crazy told us it was all grown men up in there. It was grown ups in
Yeah.
there. They was doing, they was doing grown up shit. So you think them dudes didn't want to go over there because of that, or
Yeah. Because of that, and also because we was young, but we was young fighting grown men, of course, and that's why we all clicked. Because all the homies, whether they was from the west side or the east side, the clique that I ran with, everybody was crazy anyway. We was getting in trouble, getting our ass whooped, and still doing what we wanted to do. Had come from single family homes, you know what I'm saying, and
Right.
and
Yup.
but then I would be in the Pierce. I stayed on top of the derbies. Now you had two
Okay.
sets of derbies. You had the West Side derbies, but they father lived in the Pierce,
Right.
and Dennis, Lonnie, Derby, and then Mark used to be over there, and so I
Right.
stayed on top. Then you had the
Salute to
Kenny.
the Derbies, families. That's the
Yeah,
family.
yes.
Salute to the
So
Derby.
yeah, so shout out to the Derbies, and I love Mark. Mark was a mentor, even though he used to, you know, play me out of money and shit. You know how game to be sold, not told. He want me to
Right.
come ride with him. He get a few dollars out of me. You know what I'm saying? And but you had the Campbells, you had Shonda Rue and them in the back. You had me
Right.
and B Capone was always we used to rob folks, snatch their jewelry, so we always was like that. I think me and Chief Roy, Spody used to have us going body, and GT Fisher and them in the little sandbox. I think at the time when I started going to juvenile hall, I did a lot of push-ups. So we had never really mingled, so I think me and Chief Roy went body at the time, and I kept putting him on his pockets. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, man, this nigga can't mess with me. But that was my homie. We did shit like that. You know, uh, then I think me and B Crazy, we got into it. He wanted to fight, but I didn't really want to fight him because Leo Griff. I always thought,
Big.
and
Okay.
then,
Big Griff.
E Crazy was a savage, you know what I'm saying, at the time. But then Evil, I think Evil's like, come on, Frex, man, nigga, let's go up to the carnival. That's when, before they built all the stuff right there on Van Nuys and Glen Oaks, they had a carnival where the
Right.
laundromat and
Yeah.
all that was and
Yep.
shit. And
Yep.
and
Even over there by Plantersville too. They used to have the carnival over there by the
yeah,
project.
so Evil was like, man, come on, man, nigga, I'm telling you, man, nigga, don't be scared. And so me and Booney was running together, and Booney was like, man, you going to the carnival? I said, nigga, you gonna have my back? And so that nigga didn't even have my back. He said he was. All of a sudden, I didn't even see Booney no more, and B Crazy wanted to knuckle up with me. So I think we chunked him a few times. And then it was somebody from OVG or older dudes like, nah, man, y'all break it up, da 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 da. And then
Right.
then those jitters got out. I was like, okay, shit, I think, because I didn't have no brothers. It was just me. You
All
feel
by
me?
yourself. Real
Yeah, it
talk.
was all by me, you know what I'm saying? So
about how old was you then when you and B Crazy had to square up?
we was in junior high school.
Y'all still in junior high
Yeah,
school?
yeah, I was in junior, I think Big Crazy a year older than me, you
He is. He
know.
got us by a year. He do got us by a year.
Yeah, so then, but Big Crazy was like, after that, we was cool, but He stayed more in the Noms. He would be more in the Noms and the Teresias. I was more in the Pierce, or if I and my activity was with like Danny Miles, Booney. I ran. I think me and Chicken did a couple of licks together. At one time, and he went. Yeah, we had snatched some jewelry out of in Northridge, and I told him, man, they finna get us when we walked out, and he didn't believe me, so I took off running. I think I ran through the traffic. They caught Chicken Mike, and I didn't see Chicken Mike until until 92, 92 ish. I was at Pelican Bay in 92. Yeah, it was
Wow.
me, Ronnie Vaughn, Tadpole. It was me, Ronnie Vaughn, Tadpole, Chicken Mike, Kenny Fluke from OVG, Ken
All in
Dog,
the
he was
bay.
up there. Yeah, we was
All
up
in the
at
bay.
Pelican Bay. Sir Nose, the homie Nose,
Right,
Clay.
right. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We was up. Yeah, we was in Pelican Bay in '92. Yeah, so and I was young back then. I was like in my early 20s, mid 20s. You know
No
what I'm
shit.
saying? I had knocked out a police because me, I was at Solano, me and the homie Bam, Big Bam.
Big
We
Bam.
yeah, we was both up
Big.
at Solano. He was on one yard and I was on the other yard. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Salute to
So
the homie Big Bam.
yeah,
Big
Big Bam.
Bam.
You know what I'm saying? And so like way back in, well, I want to say 85, well 86, because when I came home out of camp in 85, I ended up going back in 19. That's when the hood was really really popping, but started really all y'all was out there. Everybody was getting active.
For real.
T Bone, rest in peace. B
I was
Sam,
yeah.
everybody was starting to get active. The not, like in the '80s. But I ended up going to YA. I caught a case, and I ended up going to Ended up going to YTS in 1986. And then when I got to TS,
I
of
came
course,
after
they was banging. That was like a little gladiator school for me because
phone.
and I'm pushing the set. So when I first get there, I run into Ronnie Vaughn was already up there. It was Ronnie
Okay.
Vaughn and Cap. And then it was Bozo from Front Street, and them was up there. But that's when I had got there in 1986. And then before I left, Big Messy came. He was my celly.
Okay.
Big Messy, Booney was there, and Danny Boy, Danny Miles, and Danny Meekins.
Both Danny
It,
Boy.
it, yeah,
Danny.
Danny Boy. Shout out to Danny Meekins. Shout out to
Right.
the homie D Boy. They was there.
Was Bozo already living in the valley when you end up seeing him on the inside? He was already living in the valley.
Yeah, I had to push up on him because he was an enemy back then. But
Right,
at
right,
the
right.
same time, when we was in there, Bozo was like, we had our talk. I let him know, what, I hit him up, let him know who I was, and he kind of, and then like Rondon is kind of was related, so he didn't want no smoke. RV and Cap, they had already been there with him, so it was just like, man, he wasn't on that shit and this, that, and the other. But then when he got out, he wasn't no buster though,
Right.
Right.
But then
Right.
when he
At
got
all.
out,
At
and when he
all.
got out, he was on some other shit, and then I think when I got out of TS,
When
um,
did you get out of TS?
okay, I went in at I got to T like in like '88. I did like
Okay.
2 years,
I got there. I got there in '88.
Okay, so I had left, and then when I left, my mom and them was living. Now at this time, Shay and Moms was living in Laurel Canyon and Van Noren. Them apartments right there by that little gas station,
Right. Yep.
across from the parole office.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I got there in 1986, and then when I got there in '86, I bumped into Eve. They was staying on Laurel Canyon and Osborne, like
Okay.
down there in some apartments. So I pull up on Eve. He was like, answer the door. He had an AK-47 back then, you know what I'm saying, and had the burgundy cutlass, you know what I'm saying, and so he took me to the hood, and then that's when the hood was really dudes from Inglewood was coming out there, and all of that,
when I
You
came
know, the
home.
whole
So
hood
yeah,
was went
yeah,
up.
so
They was yeah. So
So
that's
what?
when we
When did y'all move to the? When did y'all move to the Fillmores? How? By what year was that?
when I came out of camp. My mom it had to be 85 because when I came home, I was starting high school at San Fernando. No, no,
how,
yeah, no, I was older, so it was after 85. It was
Frex, did you go
no,
to
it was
high school?
85. It was when I got out of camp because I ended up
What
going
I
to YA from there.
how long
Yeah,
did you do? How long was you in high school? 'Cause like I say, bro, you was
shit,
what I
only the 10th grade. I only made it there,
what I
and
tell
then I
you.
came. No, no, I did come. Was it- Yeah, yeah, it was shit. Only the 10th grade
See?
because my class graduated in '87.
Okay. Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah. That's one
I
thing I
was.
remember when your ass was going to jail back and forth when we was coming up, bro. That's
No,
one thing. You didn't
yeah,
stay. You got to McClay for a little bit, then you was gone. You come
yeah,
back, you gone again. Frex back in jail again.
yeah, yeah,
God
yeah,
damn.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Was it when you moved into the Fillmores? Was that what? How was that? Was that like kind of
so,
was them
so when
building
I moved into the Fillmores, my relative,
right same
my
spot?
relative Rondell decided when I was in camp, he decided to be a Crip. He started claiming Venice Showline. So I was like, nigga, you don't even know, nigga, you ain't never been to Venice. So I was hurt, I was heartbroken. You know what I'm saying? So when I get out of camp, my mom and them had already met Otis and them's mom. So
Right.
when I came over there, you know, when I got out of camp, as soon as I got out, Rondell was there. So they knew I was coming. So I met up, you know. So I'm like, what's up, and homie, you know, whoop de whoop. And then I go to the back with him because they we drinking old English back then. And I see all that front street shit hit up in they back in they you remember you was in there, so I see the
Yeah,
front street hit up. I forget who I got around with. You know, they had the hood whacked out. I forget who I got down with. Uh, but anyway, we got down or whatever. And then the next day, I was feeling some kind of way, and I went and whacked out all that shit. Crossed out all the spread. Crossed out all they said, and then went up to the liquor store on the corner, hit up the hood and all that. And then I end up having Evil and them come over there, to pay a visit, and shit like that, So
Right.
that's what I remember. But I did a lot of shit by myself, I did a lot of shit. I was a gangster all by myself, and I would,
I just remember them days, man, because we could be outside playing kickball, pick up and run or something. Next
yeah,
thing you know, it be, oh man, what up, blood? This room,
yeah.
it's going up. We like,
But this is
oh,
a true story, right? This is a true fact. So after all of that, and then Boo Boo and them used to come over. They used to come over and see me. I was messing with Boo Boo around that time. But what
Rest in
happened
peace,
was,
Bobo.
rest in peace. Shout
Rest
out
in
to
peace,
the.
Bobo. Real shit. That's
Yeah.
a hard.
So I remember uh Otis wanted to buy an ounce of dope one time. So we straight. So I said, man, shit, we can go to the Pierce. He's like, oh man, I can't go over there. And then I think I pulled up on Spotty. Spotty was doing something on his car. He was like, Fresh man, why you bring this nigga over here? You know what I'm saying? So he immediately wanted to start banging on Otis. And but
Hey,
then
remember live too, Frex. Remember we live.
yeah, this is real shit. Like everything you know what I'm saying, uncut, nigga.
You know.
You know what I'm saying? So Otis, and then one day, I guess him and Spody, they did some transactions. Then I start seeing Otis hang out by the Teresa's over there by Be Crazy and them. So I was kind of the first nigga that allowed the homie to come over in the set, without really getting banged on. You feel me?
Okay.
You
Real
know,
talk.
that's
I mean,
deep.
because I lived over there, so this before Showline and all them, kind of like from Venice
Come
and
on.
them was coming out,
Hey,
but
y'all
they had
history
they
right
sick,
y'all. Y'all getting history right here. We telling y'all some real shit.
yeah,
So y'all never know this how we started in Bitcoin. You feel me?
yeah, that's
That's what we
that's
was
how it
doing.
started, and then a couple of homies, they was bloods at first, or prospectively could have been Bloods, but then they start they start claiming,
Keyway. That's
OVG,
right. You know,
but we
half
was
is gone.
all homies. We
Come
was
on.
all homies. I give a shout out to I got love for all because like even when I got to the pen, like Gangsters T, any nigga from OVG, when I got to the pen, nigga, they read out the red carpet, nigga, this the homie, this Frex, So, it's always been love like that. But but that's just how it was, man. And a shout out to all the homies from LA, they was part of the homies that shaped me, we all was together during them times, So, and
Hey,
What
give a shout out to one of the homies that shaped you from another neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? That you remember.
man, I remember so many homies, where to start at
Okay,
China
okay.
Dog from Ludus Park, Ace from Ludus
Salute,
Park, uh
salute.
shit, I was in the pen with Bolo, from Bonnie Hunters,
Okay, okay.
Smallwood from PDL, UBN, Tweet from Swan,
Sweet.
uh 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 my homie from Lanes, LA Lanes, Dub,
Okay.
uh Devil and them from Six Deuce Brims,
Shout out to the
Lil
homie.
Man from Six Deuce,
Shout
uh
out.
all the
I
homies from VN,
when he left when he
all my
caught the
homies
plane,
from
bro. I remember
VNG,
that.
uh
87.
the homies from PDL, shit, all the homies from PDL, so many homies
Come
from
on, real
PDL, I
talk.
can't even that I
Love
was in
right
Y
there.
with and riots with,
Come on. Same here,
uh
man. Shout out to the homie Red when I first got there. Showed me everything, bro. You know, it was Red.
yeah,
That was the
yeah.
homie, man, from PDL. I know
My
they got a
nigga
lot of bread.
Twan, my nigga Twan from Ludus Park, I still associate with them today. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Uh my nigga
And we ain't
Assay
forget,
from
hey, look, we ain't gonna forget our little Keyway homies too, you know.
oh
That's
yeah, and
that.
all the homies that know me in the pen, Frex, they probably if we live, they see my face, cause I've been so on the under, since I've been home, just work,
Right.
work, work, because you gotta maintain, once I got out, I had to get my CDLs, that was the only way I was gonna make it. And by me being in jail so much in my youth, God has blessed me to buy two houses. I want to put that in there. I bought two
I was
houses.
just about to ask you what age or what year was it when you finally was like, man, I had enough of this jail shit. It's time to figure out how to stay on the street. And so what
So to
about
That-
give
all
a give a give a shout out to the homie Stretch from Bonnie Hunters, because we used to bump heads a little bit, but we was at Wasco, Dollar from PDL, couple other homies. It was just I think I was 31 because I went to I got a life sentence at 26.
There we
So
go.
about
Break
30,
it down. Go tell them,
yeah,
homie. Tell
yeah.
them
So
about that
about
one.
26, I had a life sentence, and
Oh,
I was in
yeah.
the bleachers one day, and but in my mind, I was like, man, I need to get my GED because I would always put shit to the side because I was a mass manipulator. You know what I'm saying? I can manipulate the system, but at that time, they take you out of your jobs and make you go to school. So I was like, man. So I ended up getting my GED, and then I had became a peer educator because
Right.
at that, and you didn't get paid for that, but the nurses at that time they didn't they wanted inmates to be able to talk about infectious diseases like AIDS and high blood pressure and shit like that because they was getting guacked at, and so I think when I took that step, a homie had told me, I forget the homie we was at, he had told me, he said, hey homie, he said, man, I know you got a life sentence, but you was like Fresh, man, you want to die in here? He said, do you want to live in here or die in here? And I was like, blood, I want to live in this motherfucker, right? So he said, man, like, you got to start getting your GED, your trades, shit like that. So when you go to board, you got mitigating circumstances instead of a whole bunch of aggravating circumstances in your file. Cause you ain't gonna never. So that always set in my mind.
so
And
what was the dude? You said what did you say his name was that
I
came with
forget,
that?
I forget the homie name, but he was a Damu, and we were cellies for a minute.
Right,
But
right.
we were
You
like real
remember
brief.
what neighborhood it was from? Can you remember the neighborhood?
Either Blair was from, I think he was off the east side, either from
Okay.
Villains or
Okay.
something like that.
Dropped a nugget.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
Shout out to the
So
Village,
yeah,
East
yeah.
Side
So
PPB.
yeah.
Whoa.
So after I left Wasco, because I was trying to get close to home, I left Calipat. We was up at Calipat, and when I left Calipatria, I went to Corcoran, but I was at Sadaf. So they end up turning that yard into a PC yard, sensitive knee yard. So they sent all of us. So how that happens is if you on a yard and they want to turn
Yeah.
that prison into a PC, they take everybody on the general pop to classification, and they ask you what pen you want to go to. So they start shipping. They bring the bus on the yard and they do one building at a time. They get them out of there, and then they bring the PCs in there. And then so when they get half of the yard done like that, then we'll go all the way on lockdown, and that's how they did us. And then I end up going to Soledad, and I think the homie Bullet was there, but I end up leaving. That's when I went to Wasco. Um, 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 yeah, Baby Sam and them came up there. So I was at Wasco
Rest
for a
in
little
peace,
time.
Sam.
We had a riot, and then my points dropped, and I went back up there to Soledad
mm.
on the Lifer
Wow.
yard,
So
and then
all that's what I was gonna ask you. So all that time after dude said that, you was still thinking you was about to be in there for life.
yeah, and so when I was in there, me, the homie Papa was in there. Uh, the homie Papa, Lucky had came up there. Big Rudy from OVG, Cleve Jenkins, Shep that used to box in the piers. He was there.
Nurse Mary, Daddy. Shout
Yeah,
out to
yeah.
Nurse Mary.
Uh,
Nurse
a
Mary, you
few.
better bring your ass on here too, girl. I'm
Yeah,
coming to get
so Bree Love, old man Bree
Okay.
Love was up there. I think that's Deskin and them big brother. So we was
Okay.
all up there, we had life, we was up under the three strike law. So, but it made you better, you had to do shit. You can't just be in there banged out, or whatever, because you either gonna get killed, you gonna get shot, you gonna, and it's just, I wasn't the baddest nigga up in there, but I just knew how to program. When it was time to ride, we all had to, I was on that type of shit, but I've been to New Folsom, Pelican Bay, Calipatria, uh, Solano, Corcoran, Wasco,
All level foes, huh?
yeah, all level fours, Tehachapi, you know what I'm saying, and then Old Folsom. That's why I paroled out of Old Folsom.
Oh,
How
Yeah,
long you been home?
so, oh,
I've been home. I got out 2013 on Halloween Day.
Okay.
2013. Wow.
Yeah, and
So
so
what type of things was you? What type of what type of things did you have in your file for
so
mitigate that made them work with you?
so so I was a validated gang member. You know what I'm saying? I got validated the first time I went to the pen in '89 at Solano. So I was a validated blood gang member. So that's gonna stay in your file. So when I caught my life sentence, and after the years I was in there, I think about I'm gonna say I was 26. So about 5, 6 years I was in there, I started thinking, like, I got to get my shit together. I got to start doing it. But by being a lifer at the time, they didn't have a lot of jobs, because they was giving people that had 80%, they was giving them all the priority jobs. All you could do is be a porter. So I started doing like going to AA, NA classes just to get out the cell. So
Right.
at time, like at a time, all that should have built up in your C file. Every quarter they'll send you a certificate, like, oh, so those built up, and they was consistent. And then I took me some college courses. I got my GED, so that was in my file. So that was mitigating.
Okay.
Then on my latter years, almost before I was about to get out, I was a part of this program called where we mentor at-risk youth. So the probation people would bring them in, and they would spend the day with us. And
Right.
so
Right.
we would group them, right?
Uh-huh.
Or they'll take us to a room where they'll Skype us to the high schools. So I start getting that kind of shit in my files because I was closed custody all the way until about a year and a half till I came home. So closed custody is like I didn't see night yard for 17 years. You
Damn.
know, my day was over with at 3 o'clock,
No
3:30.
shit.
Yeah,
Okay, I never. Okay, see, like I
yeah,
told you,
you know
Stone,
what I'm saying?
never been in the pen, so I don't know the prison politics, so I can't speak on it.
And so the homie Tookie Rule was up there with me. We was at Folsom. Young Took, he made it out off a life sentence.
Tookie.
Salute. Yep.
Shout
Yeah,
Yep.
out to
That's
my
Tookie, yep.
boy. That's my
one
dude.
too.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's
yeah.
my
Shout out to
dude.
the homie. You know, he was solid. You know, almost got me in some shit on a couple occasions. You feel me? You know,
Hey, Tug.
and
Hey, we
the
gonna
homie, the homie Snoop, little
Yep.
short,
Rigo
light
Bingo.
skinned yeah, yeah,
Rigo Bingo.
yeah,
Rigo
yeah. He
Bingo.
was there.
Brother,
You
man.
know, I
Waiting
could
on you to
never
come
get
on.
him in chess though. You know,
Okay.
could never get him in chess. We used to push the pieces, and
Okay.
you know, that's just it. You know, that's how it was. You know, any homie could ask me anything about the prison life. You know, I've been from juvenile hall, YA, 2 prison terms. You know, shit
So on a
like that.
take, your lifetime, how much time have you spent in prison and
Shit,
jail,
man.
altogether being incarcerated? Period.
So I did 2.5 years in YA. I did a year in Camp Gonzalez, lockup camp. Did a year. Did several stunts in juvenile hall,
Okay.
and then I went to prison. My first time I went to prison, I did like 5.5, maybe 6 years, um, and then I did like I got locked up 95, like July 95, and I didn't come home till 2013. You know,
ah, dog, that's eight. That's 18.
yeah, yeah,
Hey, let me ask you this though, real quick.
yeah.
Say when you first started, how was it with how can I say this? You know how we came into the fold. How was it on us with the city and everybody else as us claiming our turf and our town? How
So
was that? What did you go
so
through?
so I was in TS from 86 to 88. I had already known B Crazy and them had already went to the county.
Okay,
All right. I think
okay,
a couple other homies that, you know, B Crazy legendary for putting it down when he went to the county. And then it was the other couple of homies in there. I don't know if it was Messy, Ronnie Vaughn, they was already in the bounty, right? And so then when I got out in 88, I got violated for some bullshit. So I ended up going in there, and when I went in there, it was me. Evil had just was fighting a allegedly murder case.
right.
Brooks 211 was in there. Wig Nut, which I don't see Wig Nut no more. He was in there. Webb, Lil Messy,
This in the
Red
module.
Ass was in there. We
Module.
was all in the module. Lil
Okay,
Messy,
I just left. I
Red
just got the chat.
Ass, B
Damn.
Crazy was in there. B Crazy was in there. Lil Sir Nose. Like we was
Okay.
solid in there. We I jumped in the homie Beefy or Bolo, one of them, because he was in there. It was some shit like that. We was all in there at that time. Monster,
Okay.
Monster was in there. Like we was
Mo-
solid, nigga. We was unfadable when we was in LA Bounty, nigga. I said we was unfadable on Baker Road when I was in there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but we all, all the homies, all shout out to the homies, but I'm giving it up for the set. And
right.
everybody
Right.
loved us though. Everybody loved us when I was in there. You know. and we was solid, you know.
So so when you got to see the parole board, how many times did you see the parole board before they said, "All right, you ready to go? We can
So
let you."
when you first catch a life sentence, I think you get seen within the first 5 years. So when they see you, you probably already done had some bullshit going on, you know, because you first got your life sentence. You might have been in a riot. You might have had a couple of squabbles. You know what I'm saying? You might even had some a sticking, you know, and did a shoot. Um, but the thing of it is when I first went in there, they just basically look at your shit and tell you, you know, you need to get. They point out all the aggravating shit that you've been involved with, and hopefully when they see you again, that you gonna be qualified to come home.
Mm,
That's basically it. But they gonna get on your helmet because when you first come in, you ain't got no education. You ain't been to the service, the army. You ain't had no home, or you ain't did nothing positive but gangbang, sell dope, and got crime. You know,
Right.
like you ain't got nothing going on yourself. So even before you even get sentenced, that's why they gonna give you the max because you got a gang history, and you ain't got nothing. You ain't got no mitigating circumstances. Like you wasn't on a job. You didn't graduate from college. You ain't been. You ain't played nothing. So you already going in fucked up. You know. So when I caught my life sentence, Drac, Baby Sam, and all them was coming home. I think. Cause I
Okay.
seen Drac in the county, Tubby and them, few homies, Yeah, so that's how it was, you know.
So so when you got out, how was you at? What did you say you got?
What you have to do to adapt?
Man, when I got out, Skimp, man, the homie Skimp, man, shout out to Skimp, man. That's the homie, man. That's
Shout
my
out.
homie, man. And Lil J Dog, Lil J
Wow,
Dog, they looked out for me, Skimp.
wow.
When I first came home, Skimp gave me an opportunity to work at the landfill um for 6 months because it was 6 months on. I was through labor ready. He just brought me there where I could put some money in my pocket and stay without doing nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then
Keep you off the street, on the
yeah,
streets.
so I did that a few times, and then I was like, man, I need more money than this. I need to go get my CDL. So
Right.
I ended up going to go get my license, and then I ended up having a daughter at an old age, you know what I'm saying? It was already, I got out at 40, 46, 45,
Damn.
turning 46. Because in October, my birthday fall in December. So I was working for CR England for a little bit. Then I jumped out the truck because my daughter was born. And then Skimp was gonna hire me permanent. But then Lil J Dog, he was like, I thought Skimp was bullshitting me because he was like, man, I don't think you want this job. I said, nigga, I need a job, right? I need a permanent job. And then he hollered at J Dog for me. And the homie pulled me over there. And that's what changed my life, Making a
Salute
hundred,
to the homie, Jay
yeah,
Dizzle.
making
Straight up.
120 a year now.
Wow.
Come on, salute to you, baby boy.
Yeah,
That's
so,
real. That's real, homie.
and so,
Little
but,
J.
but, yeah, so, and then I got, my son and them, they grew up out of LA. So they was with
I
that
met him.
movement.
That's
Yeah,
your
but,
twin, bro. I met him
yes.
in the county, man. I walk in the county stone and I'm looking. Dude got the same look. Hey, homie, you look like my homie Frax. Oh,
Yeah,
that's my daddy.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But
Real
my young
talk.
so my youngest son, he get out. He was in Texas. He from LA too. They got the same mom. So
Okay.
he got out. So he didn't have nowhere to stay. So I was like, look, man, you either want to make G's or you want to smoke weed. I said, you're gonna have to give up either one. If you want G's, you're gonna have to stop smoking weed and get your class A license. So that's what he did. And now, man, he owned two trucks. You know what I'm saying? He owned two
That's
trucks. He
right,
had the
Pop.
pop.
God.
and nigga making 10,000 a week. Him and his girls pushing. You feel me?
Wow.
There it is. There.
There you go.
So
Hey,
Salute to you.
it
Salute to
takes some
your
type of
youngins.
sacrifice, youngsters. You might got to sacrifice that weed. You want to get your bread.
yeah, if I could do it, man, I spent my whole life, man, in the pen. But for us as a black man, you ain't got no college degree or no other special skills, man, get that class A. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know shit about a truck. When I was intimidated, but once you go to the school and get your license, I was jackknifing the truck. But man, shit, I feel better in the truck than I do my own car. You
That's what
feel
I
me?
heard. A lot of people say that. Real talk. I
Yeah.
heard that.
So you know what I'm saying? So that's real shit right there.
So what would Frex now tell 15-year-old Frex?
Man, 15-year-old Fresh did have his daddy around, man, and and man, to be up under somebody that's solid, man, that's gonna lead you right. As in the neighborhood, as my generation, the first generation, like Redbone, you, all of us. I don't know if you had both of your parents, but during that time of the movement, we could have did a lot of different things than what we decided to do. You know what I'm saying?
Real
Mhm.
I
talk.
believe, I believe, we all knew each other by first and last names. We all had that camaraderie, that love, for one another, even though we used to fight and get into it over some bullshit.
Come on.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But it was really, you know, uh, being around somebody that's gonna be positive, whether like for me, my grandfather, that's why I used to get sent back to Washington all the time because my grandfather was that authority figure. He had a good job, he was an engineer and I respected him. So it's just being around people that you respect and that's going to give you an opportunity to make some bread the right way, you know, or you going to fuck around and find out. You feel me? You
Yeah,
know what I'm
that's it,
saying? You gonna
man.
fuck around and find out, like, because when it comes to the law, I know everything about the law. At 15, so when you turn 16 now, you can get 3 strikes. So if you break in somebody's house, that's considered a strike because you put it's a violent. It could become violent in nature. So I learned that in the pen, because I used to hit that law library a lot. So these youngsters, if you 16, 17, you get a strike. Now, when you turn 21 and 18, you go to jail, go to pen, and you do something else, a robbery, assault on somebody, that's another strike. So soon as you hit 21 of age, you got a juvenile strike and you got an adult strike. So
Damn.
now you're getting doubled up sentence. So if you do something that carry 2, 3, and 5, they're gonna give you the max, and you're gonna do 10 years off the dribble. If you're an ex-con with a gun, you're gonna get some other shit. And oh yeah, and by the way, I did get my record expunged. You feel me?
Uh,
Yeah, I got my record expunged, so now I gotta file a certificate of rehabilitation because I got 10 years out. Um, and then what they
Let
do
them.
with
Hey,
that,
hey.
huh?
I don't mean to cut you off. Tell them what they got to do to get they. Once they want to know how to get that shit done, let them know what they got to do. How they got to do that.
Okay, so me, um, I was on my job, so I was working at the schools. So this was a blessing, and I was pissed off at first because they took me out of my route. I was going around, my route was school, so I was doing schools for 6 years. So one day they called me in and said, man, you can't do the schools no more because you got a violent crime. I was like, what you mean? I had armed robberies, with the pistols and shit. And what they told me was I couldn't do schools no more because of that. So I get at the union, and the union dude tell me, look, man, they already live scanned you, so I don't know why they did that. He said,
For
look, and you've
real.
been there for 6 years. So he said, look, man, I'm gonna send you to a spot called Homeboy Industries. But was it
I
Homeboy?
heard about that.
Yeah, that's downtown LA. So
Yeah.
I go downtown, it ain't nothing but gang members, essays, homies, you know what I'm saying? So they cater to homies like us, that. and
Okay. Okay.
they have some legal beagles up there. So I think so when
Tell
I
them the
go
name of
there,
it again, Franks. Tell them the name of it again.
it's Homeboy Industries. It's
That's right. I know
downtown
about it.
LA.
We just want to let them know. We just want to let them
Yeah.
know. I know
So
about it.
so when I go down there, I tell him my situation, and it's a paralegal dude. Um, so he get my paperwork started. He said, "Look, man, I need your transcripts." So I had a case in Sacramento, and then I had a case LA County, right? So I had to go to CCB, give my transcripts, and then he did up the writ because now after 2 years you're out, 2 or 3 years, um, you qualify for expungement
Okay.
of your record.
Okay.
So if you
That's right.
working or you doing something positive, you know, he gonna because that's the law now. It came out. Um, I don't. If you got some rape or some bullshit like that, they not fucking with you. You know, if
Right.
you got some
Right.
vehicle type shit, like, and then even with the cars, if you did a crime with a car or something like that, I don't know why, but everything else. So if you got armed robberies and shit like that, if you got a murder that you been clean, you can get your record expunged. So yeah, so they expunged it. So and then so once they expunge it, the judge, you got to go see the judge. The judge told me, you know, he said, I'm gonna go ahead and expunge your record, but it behooves you to file a certificate of rehabilitation. And so once they see that they expunge your record, the Superior Court judge, paid $1,000 to have them do it. The
Okay.
lawyer. So then when you go in there, so what they're gonna do is do a summary of what you've been up to, what you've been doing, and then they're gonna grant you the certificate of rehabilitation because the Superior Court judge granted you your expungement, and then your shit automatically go to the governor for a pardon. The
Okay.
governor don't look at your shit like that. They have a committee, okay, well, the Superior Court judge granted certificate of ability. They just go ahead and sign off on your shit, is what I was.
Right.
So
Okay.
I just haven't did it yet, but I qualified to go get the what's his name. And so a lot of homies don't do that. A lot of homies like I wouldn't have did it neither if I wasn't working on that job and that shit happened. I would have just so you want to get your shit expunged, and then file the certificate of rehabilitation.
Certificate of rehabilitation.
Yeah, which leads you to the automatic pardon. You
Wow.
you know what I'm
That's
saying?
game. That's game,
Yeah,
y'all. That's
yeah. So
game. Ain't
so
no
so
excuses. No
yeah.
excuses. My man
So
just gave almost 30 some years to this to the system and then
system.
got
Yeah,
out, and got it and got it right. So ain't no
yeah,
excuses, y'all youngsters, man. You know
yeah,
what I mean? I can't do this because I got a felon. I can't do that.
yeah. And the whole hood know, the whole neighborhood know from you, both of y'all, and everybody else know that I've been in and out of jail ever since I was a kid.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, and the thing of it is that if I can do it, but see, that's what took that straightener out though. That bullshit out of me, man, being with that life sentence. So you don't want to wait till you get a life sentence. It behooves you to like people that you know that already been in the pen. You can learn from them just by hearing what they did and not have to go. You feel me? And the main thing is, man, if you get your Class A license, stop driving, stop fucking up your license and get your license, and then and that's gonna change your life, period. Because even if you don't drive a truck, you could drive a box truck and still make $1,000. Any Class A, Class B license, you're gonna at least make 1,000 or more a week.
Mm.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And
That's
then don't
right.
get in a whole bunch of debt like me, doing all kind of shit. Because I get paid 15, I get paid 14, 1,300 a week, 1,500 a week, and shit, that's shit. I ain't gotta sell no dope no more. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just telling you, if I could do it, man, everybody can do it. And I can give you the blueprint on how to do it. You feel
Wow.
That's
me?
right.
You go to Department
That's
of
right.
Rehabilitation called DOR. they gonna pay for your shit. You go down to the unemployment office, tell them you want a truck drive. You might have to go through their little hoops, but they gonna give it to you for free. They gonna pay that $5,000 for free to get your license. That's what I did and everybody else. You feel me?
Tell them one more time. What'd you say? Tell them one more time. If they didn't hear
Man,
y'all,
go
what'd you
go to
say?
Department of Rehabilitation or go to the unemployment office that you want to get your class A license and they pay for it.
Good, good, good. No
Yeah.
excuses. Y'all heard that.
Hey, no excuses, y'all. No excuses.
Matter of
We
fact, the
don't have
homie Mob got his license. The Mob got his license. He called me. Him and his son got his license. They met my son when they was up there, because my son and his
That's right.
girl was getting it. My son's girl is only 24 years old, and she got her license, and they drive together. You know what I'm saying? They go from Palmdale to Houston. They get there in one day. He drive 11 hours, she drive 11 hours, and one load is like 3,500. So they take a
Come
load
on.
there, they come back with another load for another 3,500. That's 7 racks in a day and a half. You know what I'm saying? And then they
but
do it again
gotta
for
get off the weed.
yeah, you got to get off that weed. You got to stop. I done heard it all. Like, look,
Gotta
man, I gotta have weed, man, because man, I'm too
turn into
stressed out.
Chevrolet on
Yeah, I gotta smoke weed because my toe hurt.
them.
Yeah. It's either weed or G's, man. You
Hey,
like,
Tell them
what I'm
again.
saying?
With the weed or the
It's either
G's. That's
yeah,
right.
which one you want.
which one you
So
want?
I can only keep so that's the realest I can say. But man, I love all the homies. I know I don't see a lot of homies no more. I never been the one, even homies that I felt that was a little weaker than the other ones. It was always or whatever they was going through. I always uplifted my homies. If I was in the joint with them, and I peeped some shit out. Like I forget the homie name. He was a young homie, and we was at Folsom, and I would see all the damus that was up under paperwork. He was keeping Usalama while they was busting down. And I'm a no cut homie. I just represent Pacoima, and whatever. But I used to tell the homie, I'm like, damn, homie, let's spin one. Oh, homie, I was like, nigga, if you ain't up under no paperwork, nigga, you ain't gotta keep Usalama. I keep Usalama for homies, even if they under paperwork. But I know most of all them niggas when they first started, I got up under paperwork. You feel me? But I would tell the homies and lace them like nah, homie, or just try to empower them, like be their own man.
Mm.
You know, don't be, we already fucked up. That we caught up. But I would that's just me, and it don't just be the homies. It be all my comrades, all the homies, whether they from a different set or not. I'm just that kind of dude. I don't like bullies. You know what I'm saying? I never like bullies. So I had to be, I was the one that always approached a bully. You feel me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
y'all don't like
yeah,
Bud Baby.
yeah. So but other than that, man, I love all my homies, man, especially the homies, the home girls. You know, um, we was a strong neighborhood. Like we were a young neighborhood that came up in the early '80s, and but we just didn't have the right guidance. You feel me? I believe we didn't have the right guidance, but what I noticed, all the homies that come up out of those apartments, those little projects, God blessed us, homie. Homies got houses now. Some homies, they got jobs. They, whether they don't have a house, but they got jobs. They, old homies like us, they doing well. Shit, it is what it is.
Good man. So yeah, it's it's that's
Mhm.
been our hour, and man,
Yeah,
I really appreciate you
We
coming
did
on.
that, Frex.
yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Appreciate you.
like how we
On the
how we
beat, you know what I'm saying?
you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I still chuck it up though. I be all by myself, still, still putting it up.
Hey,
But You
Hey,
know, I got love, man. I got love for a lot of, man, my nigga that I got love for the homies, keyways that I know, like shit, I done bumped into some, and we all been through the same type of struggle.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I. Hey, that's what definitely we need to. That's what I definitely try to push, man. We it's
Okay.
all the same culture. It's all the same culture. It's
Yeah.
just different colors, but for the most part, we the same people, man. We gotta start looking at each other that way, man.
Yeah.
And
So
don't forget to hit that like and that comment, man. Hit y'all share our stuff. Hit that like
hey,
button, subscribe. We out here.
yes, sir.
McCormick perspective. We trying to
Yeah,
Man,
that's
get
I love how
we
we
bring
brought
that
the full
energy.
circle, man, and ended with the positivity, man,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
with a message, man. So that's
Yeah,
dope.
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I still have to mentor some of the homies that's my age, you know what I'm saying? So
That's right.
that's crazy as a motherfucker, so it is what it is. But
But
nah, it's all love
much
though.
love, homie.
I
Appreciate you,
appreciate it on
Francis.
me, man.
I
Man,
appreciate it,
anytime,
bro.
man. Anytime, man. Get at me.
Hey,
We'll
so
You
have you
know.
back. You just said you're welcome to come
gotta
back,
have you
man. We're
back.
gonna do another one. We'll bring you
Okay.
back. We'd love to have
Yeah,
you
we'll
back.
do another one. It would be cool to do one with some homies together.
Mhm.
Whether it's Be
Okay.
Crazy, whether whoever it is,
Hey,
where we can
hey,
all
so
be
we not
together.
going live without him with you anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they can address me on some shit. They might want to address me on some shit and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is what it is. I got the love for all the homies. So and I ain't got nothing to hide. You know what I'm saying?
For real, for real. Hey, we
Yeah.
appreciate you for that.
Right.
For real,
Yes,
for
sir.
real.
For
So,
sure.
hey, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna hit the stop button. Hey, I
All right.
appreciate everybody who chimed in. Lick, you already know. Slime,
Yeah.
man, salute to y'all.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
and
And everybody else in the chat, thanks for tapping in.
hey, if
Yes,
you
We
just
sir.
salute.
looking and not saying nothing, thank you
All
too. But, hey,
right.
we gonna holler. We out.
All right, man. All right, homie. One love.